Welcome to the Creative Land Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews of items, and convention panels, and other exciting things that we run into from time to time. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion to Ragnarok story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and rpgpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Hello, welcome to our panel. This is the Toolbox, Costumers Toolbox. We're going to answer your questions, talk about some of our favourite tools today. Right. And this will be archived so you may all enjoy it later.
Because you will want to, because it's so fabulous.
And it will be missing this live part where I yell at my phone, so that'll be really good.
Yell at your phone some more. There's...
Alright, good. So,
Water back
thank you.
and your tea.
Thank you. Alright. Hello, welcome to this panel. Costumers Toolbox. We've got a wide variety of costumers here with us today with lots of different experiences and approaches. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, and please share your pronouns when you introduce yourselves as well, so we know how you like to be addressed by our lovely audience, people who've not met all of us before. Would you like to start out?
Hello, I am Temperance. I have been costuming for many decades. I have a degree in technical theater with an emphasis in costume from the U of A. And I have done all types of cosplay, but my true passion is steampunk. I'm an avid steampunk and milliner. And for those of you who don't know what millinery is, it's hat making, though I did not make this one.
That you made tomorrow's.
I am Evie Betts, I'm a costumer. I live in Los Angeles and I work in the industry. I make the costumes with a company that we supply costumes for Universal, for DreamWorks, for Nickelodeon, all the character costumes. We take the cartoon characters and make them into walk-around costumes for them to wear at parks, cruise ships, and stuff like that. I've been working in movies and theater forever, except for about 20 years where I left the industry to go to school because I was going to be a high school history and math teacher. I'm back costuming again because you can't live off of what a teacher makes.
But you can costume. That's quite a testament. I'm Madame Askew. I see many a familiar face. I'm very happy to see you. She, her, hers for me, please. I've been costuming avidly for a couple of decades. I'm self-taught. I do make hats. I do millinery, but not like Temperance, who's a professional. And I do professional corsetry and professional costumes. My big thing is steampunk, but I've done costumes from like the 15th century up through the 1960s, so a little bit of everything.
You're
welcome.
My name is Gaius. I am one half of the Indigo pack. I mostly just wear what she makes, but I'm also an idea person, so I don't always make stuff.
You're a great prop maker.
I try. I'm starting to make props, but I do like doing it. But as far as the actual big costume parts, I don't do a whole lot of that part. And we've been cosplaying for a long time. We started with just kind of like anime cons and dressing as cool anime characters, and then I found out about all these different fashions, steampunk, Lolita, and so we got into a lot of that. But that's pretty much it. And my preferred pronouns today, let's do he, him,
I am Dion, Deviation on the Web, again, the other half of the Indigo Path, where we make cool artsy stuff, everything with the witchy theme. And as far as costuming, I have been a cosplayer, honestly, since I was a child, and I thought I could be a Power Ranger if I made the suit. It wasn't that easy, apparently. You're not supposed to flip off roofs or do anything like that. That wasn't okay. So I've been trying to be a Power Ranger for all these years, and kind of found my favorite costuming somewhere around the mix of avant-garde and alien fashion. So I like to work with neat textiles, different looks, something that's kind of unexpected. And whenever I get the chance, of course, I throw some witchcraft in there. So that's kind of what I do.
Thank you.
Oh, and pronouns they, them.
Thank you. All right, so welcome, costumers. I know all of these individuals outside of this panel room. I'm very excited to be on this panel with all of you. And I'm going to throw some questions to our panel here. And then if you have any questions, I would love it. Just raise your hand or signal me in some way that does not, no Lipton tea bags to the eyes. Very strict about that. So one of my questions for all of you is, what is a tool in your workshop that you absolutely cannot live without, and what does it do?
A Dremel, and it does everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Does it do your dishes?
Not yet, but I bet you they will come up with an attachment for it that will. And for your dishes, you can put the wire brush on it, and it takes off that baked on baby rice cereal that they can pave roads with.
Oh, yes.
It's the hardest substance known to man.
Now, can you tell us what a Dremel is?
It's a handheld rotary tool. It goes about 10,000 RPM. You can't hurt yourself badly with it, so be respectful of it.
Don't Dremel your face.
No.
Or your fingers.
Or your fingers. That hurts.
I assume you have Dremeled your fingers.
Yes.
6 stitches in my pinky.
Oh, dear.
It kicked back and went right in. It has a saw blade on it at the time. You can do saw blades, there's jigsaw blades, there's grinders, there's sanders, there's sanding wheels, buffing wheels, polishing wheels, wire wheels, you name it. There's all the things. It is an essential tool. It's incredibly versatile.
Thank you.
For me, it would have to be the rotary blade. I am left-handed, and I hate left-handed scissors with a passion, because if you've ever used a pair, when you cut, you can't see the line. So for lefties, when they came out with the rotary blade, not only, because I do have arthritis on my fingers, not only did it help with that, but I can use the rotary blade faster and more effectively than scissors, which are extremely uncomfortable for a left-handed person to use, but only right-handed scissors really cut well. Even the really expensive left-handed scissors just don't have quite the same cutting power, in my opinion. But the rotary blade levels the playing field. Yes. Just be very careful with them.
Oh, yes.
I also use the smaller one because, just to let you know, because you can get the really big ones with the shields and stuff. I don't like those because I can't see the line as much, but the smaller one allows you to go around curves easier. So, just as an FYI.
I'm going to be a little odd here and say my favorite tool, I hope this counts as a tool, is actually the big table.
Oh, yes! Yes!
Because,
especially if it's raised.
Yeah, and we actually built our table special because what kept happening is the table's only this wide, and no one would notice, but I'm kind of wider than that, so I need more space than that for my fabric and for your props when you build these huge sites.
Yeah, the biggest problem we kept running into every time we made something was we have our little house and we could sort of clear off some foot space and just work on the floor. But as soon as we were able to build like a nice big table, everything got easier.
So we actually bought a side panel to a dresser at IKEA, like it was really big, and laid that because it's completely flat, it's nice, and put 2 dressers under it where we can store stuff. So it is the big table. And, I don't think crafters, we don't always think about it when we're making things. You need a big, substantial space to put your sewing machines, a cut with your rotary blades to put your mat down. So by far, I'm sorry I stole yours. The table is
That's
my favorite
such a
tool.
good tool. Then.
That is a
Yes,
great
especially if it's a height that you don't have to bend over as much.
So good.
You have to do a lot of cutting or making. Punching down to a regular height table, even this height, it's not the right
brutal.
level. You
Yeah,
need to
this is
lift it up
wrong.
so that you can stand there and cut away. It's beautiful.
We had a lot of arguments about what height to make it because we were using it for so many different things, like sewing, making our resin, jewelry making, and like just all different things. We had a lot of arguments. I think we ended up doing table height.
Oh, we got special
It's
chairs.
a few inches above table height.
All you need is those the
The little
inserts for under your
adapters.
bed.
Yeah.
It's a few
They
inches
work
above
great.
table height, but we just decided on that. But it would be nice to also. I've also been arguing like we should get one that can go up and down, but we have to wait a little bit.
You just get things that go into the legs of the dressers on my leg.
Little tall.
You can just lift it up that little bit for this project.
The bed risers are fantastic that way. Do you have a tool you'd like to add there?
That's it.
It's alright. It's alright. That is such an excellent tool. I don't have a big table, but I have a folding table. And so I pull that out and it's, like I put it on bed risers. It's a much less, crafty version of what you did with the IKEA. Shelley. My favourite tool in the workshop is probably my razor blade. I love my razor blade because when I need to take things out, which I need to do all the time, it's part of sewing, I just go whoosh.
Oh.
So quick. It's also dangerous.
Yes.
Very dangerous.
Yeah,
She's
'cause I just
wickedly
use
fast with them.
the straight razor with no handle in my hand, like
Not allowed.
yeah.
I prefer the seam ripper. Less danger.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. Plus sound effects.
No, I'm designing my own table because I never use my couch. And I work every day in my house, and so I want it to sit over the couch. I don't want to get rid of the couch because it opens up into a full-size bed for company.
That's
Well,
But I can build a 4-foot by 8-foot table over it. I just have to make the top lift up and slide down behind the couch
Yes.
for when I have company.
That's super
clever.
That's
Right?
Yeah.
With bookshelves on the end to put things in.
Yeah.
I think your favourite tool should be Thor.
All right. That's fair, Tisha. So, Thor's hammer is my, special sewing machine. That's hammer with an H-E, like Mjolnir, but a sewing machine. So good. We call it Thor. Yeah. We also have the Scarlet Witch in there. It's for equal opportunity.
Very nice.
Very magical with her seams.
Yes. How many sewing
I
machines
do love
do each
the
of us have?
serger.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
It's the serger.
The serger, yes.
surgeon.
I didn't know you called just. I was talking about your yardstick.
Oh, the
Oh,
yardstick!
No,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
your drossel.
You
You
just-
changed the names. You have to tell me.
No, I'm sorry. There's Thor's hammer, and then there's the Scarlet Witch, and then there's Yggdrasil that we name all of our tools. Apparently we have a Viking
Yggdrasil.
theme.
It makes them last longer when you name them. Cosplaying tip, yes.
Please
Make the tip.
explain this
You name it?
measuring stick that you have.
Yes,
I
'cause
don't
we're all
think
jealous
most
that
people
we
know
want
about
it.
this.
Alright, so my measuring stick that they're talking about is 6 feet tall, and it can measure everything.
And it's
Or-
metal.
It's metal, or murder everything because it's metal. It will break things if you drop it on your hands. Don't do that. Ow. Bad. Alright.
Mine's only 4 feet, but it is a T-square.
Oh.
I'll still take the 6 foot.
I need the T-square because things got to be square when I'm making bags and stuff.
Alright, so what is a tool that you think new sewers probably need to embrace, or new costumers or new prop makers that they might not think about? A little obvious tool. I'm going to throw out all the good questions. You can ponder. I'm gonna start this one while you ponder, unless you have an answer.
No, there's lots of choices.
The seam gauge is the one I'm like, embrace it, because it looks like all you use it for is hemming. That's a lie. Lies. You can use it for everything. Anything where you need to alter a garment or take a consistent measurement across a prop or a garment or a hat or ribbon or anything you're doing, because you set your amount and it's just consistent the whole time. And it's just a simple, very inexpensive, incredibly useful tool.
With a thingy that slides.
Yes.
You can look at your buttonholes with it, your eyelids.
All the things.
Even the.
I once used it as a screwdriver. Yeah.
I
I did.
We should have brought it to Iron Tailor this last time because we needed a screwdriver in an emergency and we had nothing. It was terrible. We had like one of the costumers actually pulled apart metal things and MacGyvered a screwdriver. It was amazing.
That's pretty breathtaking.
The whole thing was magical.
It's a beautiful thing.
All right, any? Yes.
I think something that people kind of underestimate is the planning aspect beforehand.
Ooh.
So before I start making any props or anything, I just first, of course, you draw what you want it to look like, but then you start taking it apart in your head, and then you try to, because we are trying to communicate with each other about what we're making, we draw like plans of like what we're gonna do, and then I show it to her, and she's like, "No, do it this way," and then she gives it back to me. I'm like, "Well, what if we tried this instead?" And so actually making that plan ahead of time is such a big deal. I mean, of course, when you're sewing, sometimes you have a pattern. When you're prop making, you have an idea of what you want, but you have to make that pattern. And then in general, for me, because I'm kind of just starting, I also like to make a small version. I made these giant sides for the parade a couple of years ago. I made tiny sides that are adorable, and took pictures with them with the cats. But
That's right.
but there was a proof of concept. Say, okay, this idea is going to work, and I found out the handle that I wanted to use wasn't going to be stable enough, so we were able to go out and get something a little bit more substantial and connect it better. But all of that was only possible because of the planning and the model.
Those sides.
I love those.
They were righteous.
And we can take them off the poles, and they're like sword sides. And so like you just use them around the house.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, as we do.
And by the way, I missed the pictures with your kitties and the sides, the mini sides, and it really
They need to be reposted.
I feel really sad about that.
Yes.
That's such an Instagrammable moment.
Yes.
Really, please. Right, sorry. That's nice. Other thoughts on the tool you think beginners?
The bodkin.
Oh, the bodkin.
Now there's lots of different types of ones that you can get of a bodkin.
What is a bodkin?
A bodkin is basically a tool that you can attach a string to, or a ribbon, or elastic to, that you can pull through a channel, and save yourself so much heartache and effort and cramped hands. Now, a lot of people, when they're starting out, they'll just attach a safety pin and feed that safety pin through the channel. And it works. Trust me, I've done it a million times. But there are easier ways. Oh, there are so many easier ways. They make plastic sets where it comes like in 3 sizes that you basically attach the item to the thing and you just run it through the channel and it goes quickly. I like the little metal one that I saw of yours, and I picked up one for myself. It's a small metal step with a little ball at the end and a little loop at the other end. And the ball makes it so much easier to grab, to pull through. You'll save yourself so much time and pain, because doing long strips for it really cramps the hands. So bodkin are wonderful.
They always have a dull tip rather than like a needle where it's sharp, so they won't go through your fabric or your thumb.
They could if you push hard enough.
Not mine with that little ball on the tip. It's like a rapier for a tournament.
Yeah. And the plastic ones usually have it's not pointed so much as kind of curved. Yeah, kind of like.
And they're not expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
But with a minor edging to it, so that it slides through a little easier.
You want it to be slippery.
Exactly.
Yep.
You need it to move through. So.
I think a tool that's really helpful and has been really helpful to me is a body form. If you can get or make a body form that is your measurements and is your body, it is a lot easier to come up with a costume for yourself when you're not trying to fit it on yourself and pin it on yourself. You put it on your body form, and you go, oh, I really hate how this is working across my shoulders. I need to put a dart in here. I need to take it in here. And you can pin it on it if you've got it, a copy of your body form. And, I just made mine out of the masking tape and then poured foam and put it on a framework of PVC pipe. Mounted it onto an upright, and it's my body shape.
There's lots of tutorials.
It's me. Why would I give it a different name?
Because it's your double. Is it like, Kunigunde or something?
It could be Kunigunde, because that is what I built that on.
Yeah.
I built my Kunigunde costume on my body form. So, yes, it fits me.
Or Kunigunde.
Kunigunde.
I just love
So,
that name.
of tea?
I actually set that whole question up just so I could say the name.
Be respectful of that name. That's one of my great-grandmothers.
Yes, Kunigunde.
Kunigunde.
So good.
I thought the furnace was deep.
No. Kunigunde.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's some
My grandfather was
That's a
ethnicity.
name.
Good. That's good names. I love those names.
Lorraine Elmer.
I think I'm gonna do a class of tools.
Yes.
I think beginning costumers cannot be afraid of, let's call them garage tools. So you mentioned the Dremel, and honestly, between the Dremel, actual saws, and this isn't just
These
fabric,
pliers.
Yeah, pliers, awls for leather work. It opens you up so much when you learn to use a polisher, a grinder, things like that. You can really do things that you wouldn't be able to do with just a sewing machine. It, even learning the difference in types of lacquers and spray paints, things where you have to go outside. It's totally worth it because you can build such magnificent things that you wouldn't think of doing just in the house. Once you, start to go, oh, well, shellac isn't actually what I need. I could use this lacquer or a spray over gloss coat, and, you can get things, two-part resins, chemicals and outdoor tools are,
If you
actually
think
a
about
really
a sewing
important part of
machine as a power tool,
Yeah, it is.
it's all that class. It is a power tool.
Yeah.
It is a power tool for putting two pieces of material together.
Yeah, I do my costuming and my yard work with the same tools. A little bit of work on the car, too.
I hope you clean them between.
I do, a little bit.
Well, if you're going to work on your car, you got to get the oil on.
Oh,
Depending on the
Great for
costume.
that.
it is.
If you want the costume to look aged instantly, don't clean your tools.
Cyberpunk fan.
Booyah.
Yeah.
Steampunk engineer.
Booyah.
Explosion in the workshop.
There we go.
There we go.
It happens. Yes.
So, is there a tool that you were so terrified of that you hesitated to use it, but now you're like, it's my friends?
I'm going to be brave and say the sewing machine.
Yes.
I started off on a little baby singer like everyone. And for years, really an inordinate amount of years, as my costumes got bigger and bigger, I was still hand stitching, things that no one should hand stitch. It was a little deep, the amount of hand stitching that I was doing for ball gowns and things like that. And it wasn't the best look. Because what would happen is I'd end up 2 minutes before the ball with him sewing me into the dress because I wasn't done. I didn't know how to put a zipper on, and so honestly, the sewing machine, that's scary. When you get a nice machine, it's making a nice. I have one now. Fat with a P.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's a sexy machine.
Oh,
And
bats
it
are
purrs.
sexy.
Yes, it purrs when it's working. But the first time, I'm sitting with the woman behind me who's trying to sell me the machine, and she's like, just do a back stitch. And I started, and it goes, it was just so smooth and beautiful, but horrifying because I'm heavy in my heel, so I can really press down on that thing and get it table shaking. Another reason we need a great table.
Yes.
They're frightening. They have all these switches and buttons and levers, and you can get online and watch videos, but you'll have to watch hours of videos. But at this point, I feel really comfortable with it. But definitely, year one with something other than my baby singer, where it told me what each stitch did, with words. Now I feel better. The sewing machine.
Girl, when you're ready to graduate to the big leagues, You come spend the weekend at my house. I got my industrial sewing machine. Industrial walking foot.
Oh, wow.
So
You
dangerous.
can sew through
So
3/8
dangerous.
thick leather
All your
and
bones.
3 layers of webbing at once.
I can barely do leather, but still. Oh my
You can
god.
go through all of that.
My husband freaked out. Although I was terrified of the serger at first because we use the big sergers with the blades on them. And so I'm like, well, what do you mean it has a blade on it?
Just to trim it.
Right where near where I put my fingers. Okay, but then once you use it and you feel like I love them with the blade. They make it so nice to really clean up a garment.
Good finish.
Yes. Makes it so much easier to sew with a serger. This is a tool that everybody should get to learn to know and love. A serger or overlock machine. If you're doing the edges of your fabric before you even sew them together, what is nice about it is you don't have it threading off and coming apart while you're trying to sew it. Makes the whole thing hold up better while you're sewing it.
Also, if you have to flatline a garment to give it the right shape or drape or feel or strength, flatlining the two pieces together with a serger makes a much cleaner garment.
Yes. And they don't do this while you're trying to work with it.
No, hopefully not.
Not if you pin it real well in your
I'm
flatline.
looking at a certain garment that I had to work with. It never
That's
stays
because
still.
one of these pieces of fabric was doing this whole.
It's woodgy.
Woodgy fabric is not your friend.
Get behind me, satin.
I see a t-shirt coming.
Hail satin. Hail satin.
I leave that to you because you're artists as well as wearing beautiful cosplay. You do visual art as well, both of you. Guys, do you have one? You don't have to answer, but you can.
I don't really think of anything because I'm pretty much just terrified of everything when I first started.
Not even the dermal?
And then no, because I'm terrified but excited about everything. So I use everything the first time I break it somehow, and then I'm like,
Do you like roller coasters too? Is that your thing? Okay, there you go.
But once you do something and ruin it, something you're like, okay, from here it can only go up. And so I think in general, every time we get something new, it's like, how am I gonna break it this time? But then you use it and you learn it. So there's not one story or one thing that's really super terrifying.
When you start doing resins, you learn to use the scale for the stuff that's supposed to be by weight.
Right, well, we use by volume, which is even worse because
You gotta really
because you're like, holy shit, are they at the same size or is one slightly higher than
Like
the
we
other?
have medicine cups.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's,
I buy the medicine. It's worth buying the medicine cups. Yeah,
I have a
by
trick
weight.
for when you get to do by volume. You get the little draw, like syringes,
Yeah. We're doing
and you can get it to the millimeter.
We're doing much bigger volumes than that, so
You can get them
But-
where they
Yeah,
do.
you can't get them huge.
Yeah, you can get them large.
Urine plungers, that's what they use them for.
Yeah.
For counting.
Well, sorry.
Hey, medical supplies.
You know what my family does.
That's perfect.
So first of
no,
all,
I mean, it's true. Thank you.
I love that the tool that's come up from the audience that's most surprising is the urine plunger.
Yes.
That's what we need in all of our workshops.
But you can do really large volumes with it and still
No,
be
that's
very
perfect.
accurate.
That's great. Thanks.
I love that.
Yes.
I'm trying to the one I was afraid of was the serger, honestly. Also, I was so afraid I'd sew off a finger.
It's got all the threads and needles and things and the blades and the things.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and it can talk to you. Blah, 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 blah. It shows up in your nightmares sometimes.
With all the threads, you don't know if you threaded it right.
Oh yeah. if
Because
you're-
it's shaky.
Oh, and the
It's
thread
so
diagram on them is like, okay, can we translate this to like normal?
No, we cannot. You must go through the gambit of the thread diagram to be worthy of the serger. If you cannot make the sacrifice of the thread diagram, you will never be using your serger.
Of course, if you don't have a serger, you can always do other tricks to finish your edges. You could do a zigzag on just a regular machine. You could do pinking shears. You could even encase them in bias tape.
Okay,
You have all
pinking
kinds of
shears have a
love.
new name. I didn't know if you guys knew this. And we got this from, Renee was helping somebody sew a coat for the first time, and he kept asking, where are the NAMI scissors?
NAMI scissors.
The what? The NAMI scissors. They go, nom, 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 nom. They're NAMI scissors, just so you know.
I like that name much
Use
more.
the correct term, people. Can I use your NAMI scissors?
Oh my gosh.
I'm actually going to add a little, I know that wasn't the question, but I think it's smart. That's a big one when you're first costuming is how to finish your seam so you don't have threads going everywhere. My favorite is the faux French seam, where you pretty much sew everything on the right side instead of the wrong side, but then flip that over and sew it again. And it perfectly encases everything. You can iron it flat or go ahead and sew it flat. It's the seam that you'll see on your t-shirts on the shoulder, that seam where it just everything's kind of tucked in nicely. And I don't have a serger because they have hooky needles and lots of things, and I'm horrified of them. So I just use, and it's a beautiful way to finish it. It's not too bulky. It gets everything nice.
And it also is a real good thing about it's an extra seam to support that seam so it doesn't, when you do it on very tight pants for someone, they do a lot of bending around, it's got the French seams in there, so it's got the extra seams to back it up.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
No, I love that idea, but I always decide to do it after I've cut my fabric.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't ever have enough fabric, and the costume ends up a wee too small.
Oh. I have.
Because it does take like
You
an
have
extra
to
inch
plan.
of your seam.
It depends on how you do it.
Yeah. The first, so what I do is I actually sew, to keep that from happening, I sew within my seam allowance first. So I actually, that first one will be, maybe 2 millimeters away from the edge of the fabric. I'll do a zigzag first, really close to the edge of the fabric, as close as I can get it. And then the second one is on the seam allowance. And that's how I keep it from being too small, but without bulking it up, because I totally, you want to cut that extra off. But by sewing so close to the edge, you usually don't end up having to cut anything off. And if you do, it's at a curve or you had like a little notch or something and you want to do that. But yeah, just in a way, it kind of comes down to ignore the pattern.
Although
I'm more
with
like
a
seam allowances, I always go too small.
with a very delicate fabric, you may want to just increase your seam allowance initially because you won't be able to sew directly on that edge.
That's true.
Also, check what needle you're using. The proper needle for the proper for the fabric that you're doing can make a big difference. But yeah, for very delicate fabric, you really want to do French seams on the really delicate stuff, because that's the best way to finish it. You would want to do a little extra, just to even if it's just an extra 1/8 of an inch.
But it's
Just-
better even than a serger on a delicate fabric.
Exactly.
Right. How are we doing on time? Anyone have a
It is 6:34.
6:34? So I'd like to take a few moments. Any questions from our friends in the audience? Any jobs that you would like to solve in your costuming project and you don't know the tool for your job? Yes.
I'm about to work on a film project. He knows this.
Yes.
And the Dremel that I was using carved the foam I was using, but it seemed to take a long time. Do I need a stronger bit or a stronger Dremel?
Okay, what kind of bit were you using?
The one that had the sandpaper.
The sandpaper, the drum?
Yes.
Okay, and it was like the EVA foam?
Yes.
Okay. With that stuff, what you really want to do is you want, if you possibly have a bandsaw, which I'm pretty sure Peter does, and you know it's going to be, eventually it's going to be rounded or whatever,
Yes.
cut that edge at a 45-degree angle. You have a lot less material to try to take off. Some of these foams are very dense, and you really do want to use the sander, but there's different grits on the sander, so get the
Right.
lower grit number.
Right.
And it makes a difference. Test with your Dremel. Go this way with one, and then go back towards yourself with another. One's going to make it a little bit more even all the way. If you're coming back against it, it's going to.
I noticed that.
So, because we use the Dremels a lot at work.
Yes.
We're using HD30. It's not such a dense foam, and it's really lightweight. But you can smooth it with like 36 grit sandpaper. and then to get the shape, and then smooth it with the Dremel. But you don't want a lot of pressure, and you want to make sure you're going the correct direction so you're not chewing into it.
Horrible, yeah. Thank you.
And just so you know, those sanding drums, if you have a fairly soft and not a super dense hard foam, and you like want to cut a channel, you can use those round drums face down to cut like a thumb channel in it to put in a bar or to put in a stick or whatever. You just have to be really careful with the depth.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want you to talk about silicone fingers.
Oh, the silicone
everybody-
fingers!
Ooh.
Yes.
Because I didn't learn this till way late in my career, like recently.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, do you want to take this one, Temperance?
Okay. Silicone fingers, you can get them at like Joann's or Fabric Store, and they usually come in a pack of 3 of grading sizes. So you have a bigger one because it'll go on your thumb, then you'll have one that'll go on your first finger, and then one typically on the middle finger. And what it does is it allows you to basically have your fingers right in there when you're using an iron without burning your fingers. So you can manipulate the really tight little, like if you're doing a bias tape and you're trying to get a curve, a tighter curve, you really want to you need your fingers to manipulate it. It protects the fingers from heat, and they work incredibly well. They work incredibly well.
And they're an inexpensive little tool that's easy to pick up. They're not so obscure. You can really just go to Joann's, and there they are in the quilting section.
No, in the ironing section.
Oh, was it in the ironing section?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just another tip that you recently told us that you could share is the clips.
Oh,
the Wonder Clips.
They're magic.
So one of the tools we love for hat making and corsetry and really all sewing and leather are these little clips for quilting. Steal them. That's right, quilters.
Quilters get all the best
Take
toys.
the tools. They come in big sizes, medium sizes, little sizes. They clip your seam allowance or your 2 things or 3 things together without having to get a pin through there. And they have a flat side on one side and they're angled on the other. So the flat side will run against your saw plate or sit nice on your work table so it's not lifted weird. They're really, we love them. We use them all the time.
And their curved side goes perfectly over like piping or that type of thing that you need a little bit of 3-dimensionality.
There you go. Another good tool is if you do a lot of hand sewing, especially if you're hand sewing through some fairly stiff things. We use a lot of curved needles at work to sew through the things because we're sewing through leather and foam and all this other stuff too. But the ladies who are doing all the hand sewing, they'll put on a latex glove. Gives you just enough grip on that needle to push it through without constantly sliding off. The other gloves, the vinyl, the all the other ones, they don't work nearly as well. If you can use a latex glove, it does make it easier for that.
You can use I use nitrile with but they come with little
The bumpies.
things on them. Yeah, and it's actually really nice as well.
Yeah.
And they're really inexpensive. It's totally worth it to get a box of gloves.
Yeah, you get a box of glove at Costco or Walmart, and it really does help. And you would think putting a glove on your hand while you're hand sewing would make it harder. Just make sure it fits you and it isn't this big baggy thing. It needs to fit you fairly tight. It needs to be a second skin, and it just gives you a grip that you don't have otherwise.
And it keeps your body oils off of things where you don't want your body oils on them. I actually started using gloves when I first started doing things for other people because certain buttons, actually, the more you handle them, the more they get a little kind of smudged and smeared. And now if it's someone else's thing that they're patinaing, that's fine, but they don't want your nasty grit all over it. The same with like just really delicate. I use a lot of chiffon, a lot of really light fabrics. And you were talking about fabric doing this. That's all chiffon does. Like it's all it wants to do all day is do this. And actually, even handling it too much, trying to add little pieces on, you can disturb the web of it. You can actually put a permanent thumbprint into your little delicate soft piece, and that's just not good. I don't know if it's-
Unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my hands get too hot or something, but I've actually put a little where it had just enough of a bump so that I could see it. I'm sure no one else saw it, but I saw it. I knew it was there, and the gloves really help because then I can kind of hold a little more lightly. And I have something against curved needles because without fail, I see my grandma giving stitches, and then I get scared that I'm going to hit my finger, and then I do hit my finger. So the gloves help because it gives me just one more little layer to hit before it hits my finger, and I can kind of pull away. So gloves are your friends. They're really nice to use.
Of course, if you have a latex allergy or something, they make a silicone, the Thread Magic, Thread Heaven, that can allow you to make it easier for the needle and thread to pass through, especially more stiffer material, easily. Yeah, it kind of coats it to give it a little more ease into it.
Oh, it makes it slippery. They stopped making Thread Heaven, but they're coming out with a new product that'll work the same way. The actual Thread Heaven, because there was this little box. People would buy that for $6 and then use it for 30 years. So they only bought one.
Thread Magic is the one that you can get readily available in like Joann's or that type of thing. And it's not quite as good as Thread Heaven, but it's still pretty darn good.
You know, if you have Thread Heaven, that's gold.
I carry mine with me in my clutch. And I watch people if they borrow it. Can I have my Thread Heaven back?
You would have been on it, wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah, no, I guard it with my life. It's wonderful. Gaius, did you have a tool you'd like to add to our discussion? Not
But
yet.
I do have a question.
Oh, yes.
What's the most overrated tool? Like, I feel like a lot of times you get in these conversations, I
Yes.
feel like you have to have this, and then professionals or like people who've been doing it a long time, like, no, you don't. So what do you think is the most
overrated tool.
Scissors, because you could just use like.
Okay, the laser guided scissors.
Oh, right. Oh, my God. What is that? That exists.
It's scissors with a little laser thing to show you where you're cutting.
So you can cut a straight line along your laser pointer.
Yeah. That's
Okay, I think that's just putting a laser on everything just for the sake of putting a laser on
Pew
everything.
pew! I'm cutting.
Yeah.
You know, on that thread, the magnet that you put on your sewing machine to help you sew
Guide.
straighter on your sewing machine.
Useless.
I mean, but you could, if you really, really need something to help you because you can't read the hash marks on the plate of your sewing machine, masking tape.
Blue tape works really well because it's usually not a color that you're sewing.
Right.
Oh, well, I beg to differ.
I would use the frog tape, the green.
There you go,
No,
there
it's like, because the magnet thing, what happens is the fabric goes up against it and does this.
Right.
So it doesn't work. Unless you're using like stiff leather or stiff corduroy or something, it's not going to make a difference. And if it's a really delicate fabric, it's just going to go underneath it or bunch up. Put tape on it and just follow the tape line.
Right. Do you have an overrated tool?
The person with the 666 shirt believes the most overrated tool is the pattern.
Oh.
You know, we spend so much money on patterns when those patterns are made off of body models done in the 1950s. They don't fit anybody properly. Even if you size them, even if it fits you, you can put it on. You're sewing. Why would you want to be able to put it on when you can make it perfect? And they're so easy now to get masking tape, get a friend to help, cover yourself in masking tape, draw, and then cut out the pieces. Figure out what you need to do to make them flat. There you go. There's your perfect pattern. I am so bugged by what they charge for patterns because, you know, you'll get a bodice that's something relatively simple that you could do with masking tape, same thing, but you're going to pay $30 for it because
Never
it was
pay
on the
full
call.
price.
Yeah, oh
No,
that's
no,
true. So
ever.
just wait till
Get the
sale
dollar.
day. That's the
Ever.
dollar is amazing.
Dollar days.
Dollar day is a tool.
A pattern, a pattern is a departure point.
There you go. Something to work off of. Not
Muslin
something to
is
take
your
with.
friend.
Oh, yes.
Tracing paper is amazing as well.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So you make the muslin version of it. And this is where your body form or your friend to help you is handy. You put it on the person, you pin the hell out of it, then you modify your new pattern that you took off of the paper pattern because it's not reality.
Mock-ups are an incredible tool.
Okay, I wear a lot of tailcoats. You think you can find a tailcoat for a person with a bosom? No, you cannot. Let me just tell you right now.
No Ralph Lauren for you.
No, only Evie Bats.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, so it takes you a while to make a pattern. Once you get the base pattern for whatever you're going to make, you keep that sucker, you file it. You keep that because you're going to use that to modify others later, and you're going to change it slightly, but you get the base down that you know it's going to fit. It's going to fit you correctly. Get a friend who knows what they're doing to help you pin it and mark it.
And that's so important. The pattern, I feel like so many people get trapped in a pattern and it has to be this way and they're afraid to mix and match. Even worst case, get the pattern. I know I like this bodice, I like this skirt. I'll put them together. You know?
Frankenstein is my friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I think Frankenstein made some of those patterns.
I also agree with that.
Like, what? This is just not right.
We have just a couple of minutes. I want to share one more tool I really love, and then questions if you have them. Pattern weights.
Oh, yes.
Right, pattern weights. I mean, pins are the enemy. Pins want to stab you. They want to destroy your fabric. They want to
They'll
break
make
needles.
runs in your fabrics. They'll put a run in it. They'll leave a hole.
They want to shift what you're working on because you have to raise it up in order to.
No,
Yeah, pattern weights are fantastic.
love them.
I mean, you still have to use pins for some things.
Some things.
Like if you're flatlining something very, very, two different fabrics, one really wants to dance on you and the other one, you have to, before you like serge them together to form one fabric, you really have to pin them within an inch of their life just so it doesn't move and dance on you.
Any last minute tools you'd like to throw out there that we didn't cover you think are really critical?
Pliers, definitely for hand sewing if you're doing like millinery, or hemostats. If you can get your hands on those.
Oh,
To help pull the needles through the heavy layers. Even if you're doing heavy layers of fabric, having just pliers will save the digits.
And hemostats are like a requirement for corset making, by the way. You want
Now,
them.
if you want to know where to get hemostats, you could always find hemostats and pliers and like the
Does
the
everyone know
round
what a
tip ones.
hemostat is?
They
They're
look
like-
like scissors. They're
but
like
they're
little
clamp.
pliers that clamp together and they clip and they'll hold it.
They're used during surgery.
They're beautiful. You can get them at Micromark. They have a website.
Or
And their
data
catalog
nerds.
is porn.
What's the name of the ruler? I forget what it's called. It's a ruler. It's see-through, and it lets you make things square. Like I think it's from this quilting section. To be
It's a
honest.
ruler.
It's a quilting roller.
Yeah, and
That's
and they're amazing.
It's
Yeah,
thick
especially-
plastic that you can do that rotary tool right along the
Yeah,
edge of.
and you can take anything if you're like kind of one of those people that might sew off grain sometimes. You can take anything and make it square, and it's amazing. So quilters,
Yes.
Yes. Those quilters. They have such
They
a
get
good
all the
tool.
best, don't they?
And they've got shapes and things that are available to them.
Oh, and another thing, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of garments, tailor's ham.
Oh, yes.
If you're going to be pressing curves, having a tailor's ham, which it's just a big,
It's
giant,
shaped
like
like a ham.
pinguishing like thing that's kind of shaped like a ham.
They have bigger ones.
It's
they have
usually
smaller
plaid
ones.
on one side and white muslin on another. The tailor's ham is your friend for pressing on curves. Also, there is the sleeve ham, which is just like a long cylinder one that's kind of
I like
barely
this one.
narrowed on this one
And this
and a
big.
little wired on this end, used for pressing really tight sleeves. Those are, but the tailor's ham by all means is definitely a friend. Like if you're doing princess seams, and you have that curve, having that tailor ham when you're pressing, it's going to give you a much better result than trying to do that on a flat surface.
If you have to put darts in anything so that it has a curve, having that tailor's ham to press it over to make it lay flat and make the seam lay open or whatever.
Just wait for Joann's to get the like 40% off on an item or 50% or whatnot, because they do run about $40 to
So goes, yeah, and If you've been wondering why your darts have a funny point on them, no matter how carefully you stitch, you need a tailor's ham in your life. Absolutely. All right, any last questions from our dear audience? So polite.
You're so
Thank you.
quiet.
Yes.
If anybody comes up with any questions, can they find you online to ask?
No, they may never ask us.
Ever. This is their one chance ever, Jen.
Would you share where we can find both of you?
Yes, you can find me online at Dion Deviation, and that's anywhere at Dion Deviation. Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. You can also find both of us at theindigopath.com or at The Indigo Path on Facebook or Instagram.
You can find me at Madame Askew, pretty much all those places except Tumblr, which I find confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just look for Madame Askew, and there I am, and I will answer your questions.
I'm on Facebook as Evie Betts or eviebetts@gmail.com. EVIEBETZ. I keep it real simple.
I am not on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram because I'm not a fan of social media. But I can always be reached at mskellym@hotmail.com.
And
Or
I know where she
through her.
lives. Yeah. I can track her down.
We can all find each other, so in general, just pick one. And
That's true.
Like, you know what? I'm not the best one to answer that. Confab.
So thank you very much, and thank all of you for joining us today for this wonderful panel. This was great. I was pretty excited when they all said yes, because they're so knowledgeable and such a wonderful diversity of costuming styles and projects. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and
Have
you.
I ever said no to you and made it stick?
No.
Okay.
You
And made it stick.
Yeah, because
want
that's
to
that.
say yes?
Thank you.
And you can join these three on a wonderful panel at 9 o'clock this evening, I think. Ask a costumer. So if there was a question we didn't answer for you here, bring it for these three.
Bring it.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
You always
Cheers.
have questions. I know you do.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.